There's a whole generation of children now who were raised to believe that they're perfect just the way they are. Sounds like a great message, but it is actually quite harmful because you do need to strive for more.
And I think sometimes hurting each other's feelings is a good thing. It builds character.
It does.
Encouragement is great.
Yeah.
But sometimes a little criticism is healthy, I think.
I have the privilege of sitting down in a conversation today with the co-founder of the wonderful page, My Therapist Says, Miss Gina Tash.
And to be fair, we went viral within like 6 months. Now today we have 8.3 million followers.
And when did that turn into a legit business?
Like we will live meme, like, the Oscars. We get invited to the Met Gala every year to meme that.
Why do you think our people don't get offended? Like people from our part of the world?
I think they have too much stuff to worry about. They have to survive and thrive. They don't have time to be like, oh my God. It's the privilege of living in a place where you really don't have to worry that much.
Hello, my wonderful listeners, and welcome to this week's CATAMANIA episode. If you are a fun person at all, and if you enjoy a good laugh, especially a lighthearted laugh, I'm like 99.9% certain you have seen the wonderful page, My Therapist Says, the wonderful account, and then other things that have come out of it. I have the privilege of sitting down in a conversation today with the co-founder of it, Miss Gina Tash. A wonderful woman, an entrepreneur, and honestly, just like from the few conversations that I've had with her, an awesome human. So enjoy, and if you enjoy this podcast, remember to give it thumbs up, like whatever the button is on the platform that you're listening to this on, and stay blessed. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on. I feel like talked about so many things already prior to the recording, and I'm like, how do we like go back to them?
We made the number one podcast mistake.
We made the number one podcast mistake as well. Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like there's always a balance. You want to kind of,
You always want to be like, don't talk to me. Say this
yeah. But then at the same time, it's like you just want to talk right away. Exactly. You told me a bit of the story of, how you got to where you are today. But do you mind just, letting our listeners know and telling them about yourself a bit?
So my sisters and our best friend and I created My Therapist Says about like 10 years ago, I think now. And it was really kind of a happy accident, as most things are. It was in the early days of Instagram, and there was maybe I don't know, 1 or 2 meme accounts on Instagram. And we were like, hey, we're super funny. Our group chats are lit. So we should try anonymously just putting stuff up on Instagram and see if anyone follows, if people relate. And we did that. So for about 2 years, we ran it anonymously, and we just posted mostly original content. And to be fair, we went viral within 6 months. It happened super quickly, and we realized a lot of, especially women, were really, really relating to the stuff that we were making fun of. Because, most of our content is humor, self-deprecating, just kind of everyday pains of being, at the time, I guess it was a 20-something. And so many people found it relatable. So today, we have 8.3 million followers, and it's a really, really great community of just people that are going through everyday trials and tribulations and making fun of themselves. So that's what it is.
I love how lighthearted it is,
Yeah.
There's various ways to do comedy, various types of comedy, but there's something to be said about this light-hearted comedy that just warms your heart, that maybe is the relatability, I guess. The more we drink this, by the way, the worse my English will get. Just a warning to our listeners, we're drinking wine, so
that goes for both of us.
Yeah, my words are leaving, but yeah, there's something to be said about this lighthearted feeling that you get when you go on a page, and it's not really about anything sad. It's just exactly like you're saying, everyday things. I think you posted something recently that said when somebody says to me, my content is so relatable, it's well, congrats, you need a therapist. It sounds like you need a therapist too.
Exactly.
How 8.3 million. First of all, wow, congrats.
Thank you.
That's amazing. How did you how did you start in terms of, who was posting the content? Was it something that the quotes were just, coming out of the group chats that you were mentioning? And when did that turn into a legit business?
Very quickly, actually. So what happened was my little sister and her best friend, they kind of started this because my sister, she did a lot of like acting. She was like a child teen actor. She did a lot of things in Canada. And she
Was it in Toronto?
Yeah, yeah. So she had time off from filming, and she was bored one summer, and she was like, let's just like figure out, like, people posting on Instagram and making money off that. That's weird. Let's try it. So they kind of just like started going. And at that time, I had a different business. I had like organic meal delivery company because I'm actually a chef. So
We need to talk about that as well. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, but then it kind of quickly became a real business, and she was, just like, oh, someone's offering to pay us to post stuff, like, or like, they're like, what's a contract? Like, how do we, like, So we just had to figure it all out together, and it was like super fun, and it was kind of like a fun side hustle, I guess. I wasn't really taking it seriously, and then it grew so quickly to the point where it was like, oh, like, join the company and let's all run it together because it's a real business. And as much as I love the food thing, it was, I guess, more fun to post memes as opposed to cooked 7 days a week.
Right.
So it was just like physically easier on me. And I was going through something at the time, and I just needed to change. And I was like, this is great. This is perfect. We can travel. We can live anywhere in the world, be like nomads before it was a thing, and just like work from anywhere, while making people like smile. As you said, we try to post only like really positive things, and like not so much even the dirty content. Like everything is like very clean but funny.
How do you do that? Like, how do you, because I'm sure you have, because I have that a lot, and I'll have like skits that I'll make, and I'll be like, is this too
raunchy.
political? Like, am I going to get
Yeah.
canceled for this? At this point, I'm like, I don't care. But how do you balance that? Because I'm sure you have moments when you're like, I should comment on this in a really funny way.
Right. Yes. So in meme culture, everything is also very like trend based, kind of like, one type of meme will be hot for a few months, or like one meme will make rounds, or like one subject matter everyone will make fun of. So it's like all about being very, very current, and like what's happening right now in pop culture in the world. Like it's kind of a social commentary, right? So we have to be very much plugged in. We have to know everything that's happening in the world, because, it's like, this is kind of what we're known for now. Like, we will live meme, like, the Oscars, or we get invited to the Met Gala every year to meme that. Like, it's like things like real big, like, pop culture events that you have to kind of be able to make fun of on the go, but like without being too disrespectful.
Right.
Because, it's not fun to just be mean. You have the skill is to be funny, but not like that offensive.
For sure. Yeah. Trying to make comedy these days without offending people is actually really difficult.
I
I'm
mean,
not gonna
to
lie.
be fair, I find like it's different with comedy, because like with memes, it's kind of like a written, like a picture or video thing. But I feel like with skits and like stand up, it's like very hard to not be offensive and still be funny.
That's actually
I like
true.
offensive comedy.
Probably because you don't get offended.
Yeah, I don't. Like, the
Right?
more offensive, the better. for me.
Exactly.
I'm not sensitive.
I want to get called out. I want people to
Yeah.
like criticize me, because it's fun. Like, it's funny.
Exactly.
When somebody is making fun of like your flaws or something, right?
Right.
So I think that's probably why. It's because you don't easily get offended. It's irrational in you.
It is. I mean, nobody can offend me more than my parents. So let's be honest.
The memes are honestly like the saving grace of our generation. I swear.
think so.
Like, they've gotten us through COVID.
Right.
They're getting us through all of these like things that are happening globally.
COVID was huge growth for
Yeah.
us. I mean, it was amazing. I'm sure for all like digital creators, I think,
Right.
actually. So it was like super fun for us.
Yeah. I like that you said that you became nomads before it was a thing.
Yeah.
Because it also focuses on like the opportunities that social media provides.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously a lot of like negative aspects that social media has. I was actually chatting with a couple of people this week about it, but there's also so much positive and so much good
Yeah.
stuff, and it all depends on what you do with it, right?
I think it's really what you make it, right?
Yeah.
As with most things in life. And I think a lot of people are unfortunately like very affected by outside influences or things or like things they read. Before social media, we used to hear the same things about magazines. Oh, seeing models in magazines is bad for self-esteem. All these things. Like,
That's actually so true.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be something that like offends or makes someone sad. And I don't think it's about necessarily the thing that, you know, that they're hating on. It's more so much about internally how unhappy people feel. And it's very sad. And this is why like we wanted to kind of have a mental health like angle to our account, because it was all about therapy for us at that time in our lives, especially we were all in therapy and we were all like, you know, in our 20s figuring things out. Like, you know, when you're in your 20s, it's very confusing. Every relationship can be like you're the one, or like, you know, can be like a waste of your time, and you're just like, so, and you're trying to figure out your career and all these things that are like, you know, you're trying to become an adult. And, you know, we all kind of really leaned into therapy, and that helped us so much that we were like, you know, in a group chat, we would start everything with like, oh, the therapist said blah, blah, blah today. So that's kind of like even how our name came about. And we thought that like, let's destigmatize therapy. I think like everyone should go to therapy, because not everyone has someone like they can trust, that they can open up to and talk to. Like not everyone has like, you know, even if you do have a best friend you can trust, you never know at the end of the day. You know, it's nice to talk to someone objective and just like who, you know, doesn't really know your life, doesn't care, but like he can offer help and comfort. And I think everyone needs that.
I saw a movie once, you said that, and I'm like, I thought about it, where there's like, oh my God, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was a show. But basically they like hacked into the therapist's files.
Oh my God.
And honestly, since then I'm like, I don't even know if like I can trust the therapist, you know, because I'm like, what if somebody like hacks it? Like there's like this, you know, thing in my brain.
Right.
And it's almost, actually my sister-in-law told me, she's a psychologist, and she was like, that's your brain probably like trying to prevent you from going to therapy. And I was like, ooh, that's
true.
deep.
Because you self-sabotage.
Yeah. It's like, I don't need
I don't think you need therapy, honestly. Just kidding. I just went back on what I just said. Everyone needs therapy. No, I think therapy is good for everyone. But like a lot of people, I think some people just need a little more, especially if they get offended or affected by the things that they see out there, you know? Like a lot of people are just like, you know, more sensitive than others. And it's hard for like me, because I'm just like the least sensitive person. But I have people in my family, I have close friends who are very sensitive, and I always have to like watch myself. Sometimes I'll make jokes and they'll be like offended, and I'm like, I didn't mean to offend you, it was a joke.
Yeah, I experienced that when I started working in the corporate world in Canada, and I came in with my Eastern European me, like I was just myself, you know. And yeah, it doesn't
translate?
It doesn't translate well in many workplaces in Canada.
How old were you when you moved?
I was 2 months away from turning 17.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't translate.
No. Yeah. I like brought in everything and then had to like relearn the more diplomatic approach to conversations, because, you know, in our cultures, you say it how it is and nobody gets offended. And I still don't understand why that's a problem. Like, to me, that's, you just say if somebody makes a mistake, you tell them they made a mistake, let's fix it, let's move on. But in like Canadian corporate culture, I feel like in US people are a lot more blunt, to be honest with you, but in Canada you have to like tiptoe around the issue, the sandwich method, and of course there's communication skills that everybody should learn, especially if you're working with people, for sure. But there's a degree to which I feel like, you know, you reach a level where you just take it too far, and it's like you're just sugarcoating things too much. Hand holding, and like this conversation shouldn't take an hour. It's just like a 5-minute, you know, let's figure this out and move on kind of thing. So, yeah, you said something interesting, and I actually started thinking about that. I feel like therapy in Eastern Europe has recently become a thing, but it wasn't really a thing when like I was growing up. Yeah, you wouldn't go to a therapist, and maybe it was the same here. But I'm curious. Because a lot of people in North America go to therapy. And I think it's a great thing personally. But you mentioned something about how, like, you know, if you get offended, maybe that's something that, maybe that's the reason why you should go to therapy.
Something triggers, right?
Why do you think our people don't get offended? Like people from our part of the world.
You know what it is? I think they have too much stuff to worry about. They don't have time to be sensitive. They have to survive and thrive. They don't have time to be like, oh my God, today, like it's the privilege of, you know, living in a place where you really don't have to worry that much, I think. And like everyday struggles, like it's even like, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's a study. I don't know if there is. I haven't looked it up. But like maybe like your socioeconomic like level has something to do with it, because I feel like when people are like really worried and trying to survive and work all the time, they don't have time to be sad about like for no reason, or like to be like offended by what everyone says. Like they're really hustling, they're trying to make it. That's why when you like listen to all these podcasts, you see all these entrepreneurs that like, you know, came from nothing or like made it from the bottom. Like they're like, I don't care about what you say. I don't like. There's nothing you can say that can offend me because I've like gone through the worst, you know. But it's people who are like sensitive and just like kind of had been like kind of babied their whole lives. They have time to get offended. I think maybe
100%. It's a curse of a spoiled
it's privilege
nation.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first moved to Canada, I met a friend from Burundi, Africa. I remember she was telling me when she was growing up, she had two sisters. So it was 3 of them and parents. And she said they had 1 liter of water a day, bottle, to wash, cook food with, clean, for everything. Drink.
Imagine.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her and she was like, how could I ever get offended about anything? Like going through that experience. I remember literally worrying about like water, food. Nothing else bothers me.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
I don't care. Everything. If things are good, they're good.
They're good, exactly. And it's interesting because like I don't necessarily want, you know, hard times for places
Everyone.
like, for everyone. I really don't. But sometimes I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, maybe the fact that it's been objectively speaking good times on a societal level that have caused all of these, you know, issues that people get offended about that are not worth you getting offended about them.
Well, it's like if something offends you, just like kind of like, okay, move on, like, you know, move past it. Don't not like it. Like you don't have to comment on everything. You don't have to like let everything in. You can just be like, okay, well, this is not relevant. I don't care about this. Like I don't want to see things that like if you're easily offended or sensitive, then there's ways to kind of like, you know, kind of put blinders on and not see the things you don't want to see, right?
Exactly.
There's like a corner of the internet or the world really for everyone, I think. And that's what's so beautiful about this world. Who was it that said that like war creates strong men and like something about
hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, weak men create hard times.
Exactly. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
I always, you know, one day when I have kids, hopefully soon, I will definitely keep that in mind because I am not spoiling them. Not like that.
Yeah. It's an interesting one too, right? Because I was like, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to make money so that I give my kids everything so they're not in need of anything ever. And then I'm like, okay, but how do I also make sure that they know the worth of all of that and they grow up into, you know, decent human beings who aren't spoiled?
You send them to Eastern Europe every summer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, okay, so you're offended at school. Somebody was mean to you. Okay, pack your bags. Okay, we're gonna go to grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
Is that gonna teach you how to live life?
Exactly.
Okay. You get offended because somebody didn't call you the right name or something. You go in front of the class in Chisinau, Moldova, and you tell them in front of the imagine in front of a class in Eastern Europe to say like I'm offended because somebody called me the wrong gender pronouns.
Or even like, or even like if someone, you know, like, I don't know, oh, this person doesn't like me. Like, why does that bother you? Find people that do like you.
Yeah.
You know, there's like-minded people for everyone. So like, it's the problem solving that's I think is missing.
Yeah.
I think in other countries, I think especially like Eastern Europe, those kind of places, I think you're really taught to kind of grow up faster. Like, I remember like, I mean, I went to elementary school, like not in Canada. And I remember just like, not being babied in elementary school. Like it was like a very adult experience and it was like very like stressful at times too. Like there was responsibility. There was like, you know, you never felt like a child. Meanwhile, I come to Canada and I see like people are sitting on the carpet and having a little book time. Someone's reading out loud and I'm like, what is this, kindergarten? Like what is happening?
Yeah.
like I was doing like studying architecture and like drawing like plans and like engineering and all these things
Yeah.
in like grade 6.
Where did you go to elementary school? Where'd you grow up?
Uzbekistan.
Oh, you grew up in Uzbekistan.
Well, I moved in grade 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Canada. That was
Right.
like my formative years. But I spent
But
enough
still, you
time
had
there
that
to
exactly.
have that good foundation, which at the time, as an immigrant kid, I hated because I wanted to be like everyone else.
Right.
And that was like a very, different experience. But now, looking back, I'm so grateful I had that because I don't want to be like everyone else. I feel like everyone's like, the more experiences, the more life experiences, the better.
For sure. I was talking to a friend of mine. He moved to Cancun. He's from Russia. And he was kind of having a similar experience.
Yeah.
He's like, I have like friends now who live in the States or Canada. Like one of his friends in particular, he was telling me, she was complaining about how, oh my God, like she was so worried she wasn't going to be able to drop her kid off at school or pick him up. I can't remember. And he was like, but isn't he like 12? And she's like, yeah, but like I always pick him up, And he's like, I grew up in Yakutsk.
Oh my
Yakutsk is
God.
the coldest city on planet Earth. Like the
It's like North
temperatures
Pole.
there are like insane. It's like minus
-50.
40. Yeah, minus
Yeah.
40, minus 40 is like a good warm day.
Yeah.
And it lasts for like 7 to 9 months. And my friend's so funny. He's like, every fucking day since 5 years old, I would go to school on foot. Nobody gave a shit in minus 50.
In the darkness.
One day you can't pick your kid up from school. He's 12. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. So it's a totally like different way to, I guess, just even raise kids, I guess. It's about, I mean, I'm not a parent, right? So I'm not criticizing
Right.
anybody.
I'm not
at all.
either, so I can't.
Yeah. I'm not
talk yet.
criticizing. I'm just trying to understand how do we get to a situation where we live in one of the wealthiest places, or some of the wealthiest places that humanity has ever known. Objectively speaking, on societal level, we've had it good here.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you moved here.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I moved here. Why is everybody so offended? And again, I think US is better on that front than Canada.
Yeah.
Canada's like a whole other world.
I think everyone's just really afraid to hurt each other's feelings. And I think sometimes hurting each other's feelings is a good thing, honestly. It builds
Hurt
character.
each other's feelings more. This is a quote from this episode. Hurt each other's feelings.
It builds character.
It does.
Because, what's it like living in a vacuum like environment where everyone around you is afraid to be themselves or to give you their honest thoughts and feedback, and then you just like grow up kind of delulu.
Yeah.
You want the honest, like, you want things to improve on. You want to get better as a human being, as a like elevate somehow. You can't do that if everyone around you is tiptoeing and just saying like, everything is great, sweetie, you're beautiful, you're doing great. Like, encouragement is great, but sometimes a little criticism is healthy, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I took a Tony Robbins seminar last year, 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. It's crazy how years start to blur after
Right?
you turn like maybe after about age 25. I'm like, I don't remember if it was 1 year ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's going too fast.
Yeah, it's going too fast. But I remember he was mentioning that, there's a whole generation of children now who were raised to believe that they're perfect just the way they are.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that they need to do to better themselves.
Yeah.
And sounds like a great message, but it is actually quite harmful because you do need to strive for more. You do. Yes, you are great. You're capable of doing all these things, but you have to strive for more. You can't just be,
It's a disservice to our children, to even our friends, to anyone, to just like lie to them in the name of being like polite. Taylor Swift has a great lyric about it. It's actually really funny because it's the one thing that always like sticks with me. She said, casually honest in the name, cruel in the name of being honest or something. And I was like, that's great, because I know she's saying it as a negative thing, obviously, like in a relationship, but like you want to know how someone actually feels. Like, why do I want someone to baby me and to like spare my feelings? But then I will never learn. I'll never get better. It's like if you're like in school and your teacher is always like, oh, you got all the answers wrong, but you did grade A. Like, why would you want that? That's not helpful.
No.
Like,
I heard about participation trophies.
oh yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is a participation trophy? Back where I come from, There is no such thing as a participation trophy. You either suck and you know you
Right.
suck and everybody will tell you suck,
Yeah.
or you're great at something.
And you get
if-
better.
and you get better. If you want to get
Yeah.
better, if you choose to get better. And if you don't want to get better,
You find
you
something
choose
else.
another avenue and you find something else to be better at, because not everybody is meant to be the
Right.
best at this particular thing.
Right. Why would you want a society where everyone is like, good at one thing, or everyone is just like thinks they're good at one thing? You want everyone to kind of explore their true talents, and everyone's different. I feel like the individuality, different strength, all of that should be encouraged and celebrated.
Yeah. I love this conversation so much, but I do want to talk about your past, or
Yes.
maybe it's still your present.
Yes.
You were a chef?
Yes. So it's a funny story, actually, why I went to culinary school. Obviously, all the women in my family are incredible cooks, even some men.
All the women, and you
Yeah,
said even some men.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
I was like, all the
everyone
men in your family are incredible cooks. Wow.
Right. I'm from a country with the best cuisine, arguably, and everyone's like very much into cooking and like, just like Middle Eastern culture in general is all about food, right? It's more so than Eastern European, I think, even. So it's like, I did not.
Challenge accepted. Like, did you just say that out loud?
I do think
Damn,
Middle Eastern
Middle
food's
Easterns
better.
versus Eastern Europeans. Okay. I mean, you went to culinary school. I am not competing with you.
I can't make any Eastern European or Middle Eastern foods. But anyways, that's a different thing. So I grew up with my mom throwing the most amazing, elaborate dinner parties, and like just being able to make anything, like bake, cook, like anything, and make it look so easy. And in a typical like Eastern European mom fashion, she's really bad at teaching you. It'd be like, hey, teach me. And she'd be like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What's wrong with you?
You just have to feel
You
it.
can't figure it out.
I'm like,
I
Mom,
did
what
this
do you
when I
mean
was 5.
feel it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. So I never learned how to cook. And in college, I would date guys, and they would be forced to cook for me every day because like I just did not know how to even make an egg. Like it was super embarrassing. Like I remember once I tried to like cook for one boyfriend and I made him pasta and he was like, please never do this again. It was like this lumpy mess and like it was like a sauce from a jar and it was just bad. So I just did not know where to even begin. And then during that time, all the culinary shows were becoming super hot, like MasterChef and Top Chef and all this stuff. So I started watching this stuff and I got super into it. And I was like, this is amazing. These people are like not professionals and they're making these incredible foods. And I became like really passionate about food. And I was like, this is really bad. Like when I have a family, when I have kids, I want to be able to feed them. Like I want us to create the same memories that I have with my family. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, my mom's not teaching me. How am I going to learn? So,
But you probably are never allowed to say to your mom that she was never teaching you.
no, she would say, Bestolic.
Бестолковая, my mom would say to me.
She'd be like, if you can't learn on your own, like, no one taught me, like, you can also learn on your own,
Yeah.
She's like, she's just too good. Like, that's her talent. So for me, I was like, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do it properly. And I'm going to have someone teach me from the basics because I want to have those badass knife skills. I want to do all that like people do that like, you can't learn at home unless like you're doing it a lot. And I wasn't doing it a lot at the time. Like I wasn't cooking at all. So it was actually funny because my younger sister, she was like naturally, like she got my mom's talent. She was like, she can make anything. She never had to like go to school. She's like super, like from like the age of 10, she'd be making like gourmet dinners and make us sit down for dinner and make us like chocolate mousse and all these like fancy things. And I'd be like, wow, okay, that's a talent. And like I saw that like she was so good at it. And then she'd be like, you need to learn. So, and I was really good at like other things. Like my passions were like, web design, graphic design, all these things like in the 90s. Like I was that kid who like went to like Word and Excel courses when I was like 10, when that was like new. Like when computers came out, my dad was like, I'm signing up for everything. Like, you're a nerd, let's go. And I am a nerd. I was into it.
You would have been my friend from whom I would have copied a lot of homework.
No, I didn't do any. No, I wasn't good at school. I was good at computer stuff.
You were just good with computer stuff.
No.
Okay.
I had a blog before it was a thing. Like, if I kept it up, I'd be like the first blogger, I think. Like, I was super into all things internet.
Okay.
So I really embraced it like from a young age. And my sister, like, she was like, I was a really good artist when I was younger. Like, I was super into, like, all things like art. So like graphic design was like also like I would like draw things like in Photoshop, like paintings, like that was like my thing. So me and my sister kind of challenged each other. I was like, okay, you go to graphic design school, I'll go to culinary school, and we'll like switch each other's talents and see what happens.
I'm loving that dynamic.
Yeah, like we love to better each other.
Yeah.
We're like super close, but we always challenge each other to be better, like with anything. So she like, I was the oldest sister, so she kind of always worshipped me, and she was like, I want to do what she can do, like she's such a good artist, blah blah blah. And I was like, I low-key want to do what you do because this is amazing. I can't cook like or do anything. So we switched. We both went to college like at the same time. Like we took these like it was like a full-on college course. Hers was 3 years, mine was only a year. But she's now this amazing designer, and like she can do anything on the computer. I forgot how to like even use Word. So, but now I cook, and we completely switched passions. And it was the best thing I've ever done. It was the hardest, but the best thing I've ever done.
And I'm sure that your boyfriend is like, because do you love to cook? Like, do you
love to cook. I cook like 2 different dinners every day because we have different diets that we like.
What kind of diets do you guys have?
Well, my boyfriend's keto, so so I have to make all his like all the fun foods like keto. So that's kind of like, and that was what my business was about, like making all the fun foods healthy. Like, so you're eating healthy, but you don't realize it's healthy because it still tastes good. Right. So that's kind of like what I do. And then for me, like I'm usually at home always like on Whole30, not on purpose, but it's just like, gluten-free, dairy-free, just like protein and vegetables, just like whole foods. I'm very passionate about like healthy food.
Where do you guys live so that we know to move closer somewhere to you when we move to Miami?
Wait till the dinner parties. Valeria is also waiting.
Amazing. I love that. I love having so yesterday actually I went to my friend's place, and she's like a health nut, like biohacking health nut. She's a nurse, she's a registered nurse, so she's got like the medical background of it.
Smart.
And I went to her place, we went to her place yesterday, and like the variety of cheeses, butter, like things that I've never heard about. There's like some marinated Japanese plums.
Oh yeah.
That were like, I was like, I've never seen this before. Ostrich egg. I was like, what is this? And I was like, okay, I definitely need to move to Miami because
you do.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's amazing because everyone's into this stuff, but I find that like people in Miami don't really like focus on cooking because everyone likes to be out so much.
Yeah.
Because it's such a social city. So even like if you're house shopping, you can't find a house with a good kitchen. It's so hard. And like for me, like I view houses, and like every house has like barely 1 oven, and I'm like used to 3. I'm like, what is happening? Like it's painful if you actually like to cook and host.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to cooking and the response, so I have a friend who like calls these things, this is going to be like hilarious, but I won't get canceled for this. Even if I do, I don't care. He calls these things womanly duties, jokingly, like cooking, cleaning, and all of that kind of stuff. What's your belief? Like, as a woman, should you know how to cook?
I'll probably get canceled for this, but it's actually funny. I comment on all your videos about this stuff, and I always get so much hate mail. I love it. I actually
like under my posts, you get like hate.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I get into fights in the comments. I love it.
Thanks for boosting my engagement, girl. I always remind myself of that. If there's like a really mean comment, I've learned to like tone it, not tone it off, but it's, and I'm like, this is engagement. This is great. I'm leaving this. It's okay. It's okay that they think I'm a bitch. It's okay,
Exactly. Yeah. No, but honestly, it's for me. I think I'm just so argumentative, and I have such strong opinions as a person, that I just love to try to change people's minds. And if someone like, it's a Taurus,
I love that you're embracing that, like, because the politically correct thing to say is like, you don't have to change anybody's mind. Exactly.
No,
it's like, no, I love to change people's minds.
No, I'm horrible. Like, I'm so stubborn, and I feel like I know, like the things I don't care about a lot of things, but the things I do believe, I'm very strong, fast about it, and strong-headed. So I do like to try to argue and like change people's minds. Like, I'm never like, mean about it. Like, I'll just be like, genuinely, like, tell me why you feel this way. Why do you disagree with me? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll give them my reasons. Eventually, I exhaust people. They just like block me or stop responding. They just like don't have anything to say because I have good points.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like this is the same generation that's like so sensitive. The second you out argue them and you give them good arguments, they don't know what to say. They start like getting like super mad, and they're like, oh, like,
And they don't
screw
want to take
you.
responsibility and say,
No.
you know what, your
I see
point
your
makes
point,
sense.
you know, like that's what I would do. If someone
Yeah.
ever like I would argue with me, I'd be
Yeah.
like, I see your point.
Yeah.
I get it. I will note this and simmer and like just like figure it out, you know,
Yeah.
like see if I eventually change my mind. I'm very cool with changing my mind. I just like, you know, most people are not good enough to like not putting enough effort to change my mind.
Yeah.
So anyways, traditional gender roles. I'm very passionate about this. 100% yes. I don't believe every woman needs to cook and clean and blah, blah, blah. But I do believe everyone should know how, men and women. Because like, you know, say you're single and you're dating and you go to a guy's apartment and it's gross.
Yeah.
That's not nice. Like everyone should know how to keep things clean and like how to take care of themselves. But I do think in a family situation and like a marriage or relationship, I think it's nice when people like, you know, do what they're good at.
Yeah.
So if you're really bad at cooking, but your husband's really good, he can do that. I
Yeah.
don't care. It's not necessarily about the traditional, but I feel like someone should do it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But I also feel like when you're a mother, I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but if you're a mother, I feel like you should embrace these things because I feel like as a child growing up, I just remember how important it was and how nice it was to have a mom who like cooks for you and is there for you and takes care of you and is present. So I just feel like if you can, like when you do have a family, I feel like people should try.
Totally. And you know, I've heard from many women who are like, go, 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 like boss babes.
Yeah.
I'm all about my
You can do
career.
both.
I don't want to, you know, I don't want to sacrifice myself when I
Yeah.
have children.
Yeah.
Many of them, after having children, my mom included, my mom was a
Yeah.
doctor. Like
Yeah.
she was a,
Wow.
she was a boss babe before it was a fashionable thing. Like she was, you know, she
Exactly.
didn't even realize she was one. But she told me once I had kids, I really wanted to chill and like
Priorities
relax.
change, right?
Because I wanted to spend more time with you, like me and my brother. And I've noticed that about a lot of women who are like, you know, go, go, go,
Yeah.
career oriented. They were like, you know what? I actually like kind of want to relax and spend some time with kids.
I
it's
got
interesting.
into a funny argument in one of the comments yesterday because my friend sent me a video and it said something like, oh, I love, what was it? It was like, I did a good job dating, or I picked right when I was dating because now when I have a kid, I can just spend a random Tuesday afternoon in the museum with my kid and not worry. And my friend sent it to me and like, you know, we always talk about how like we're so lucky that like we have these amazing men that like are so supportive and this and that. And and then in the comments, all these people were just like missing the point of the post. So I started commenting and it was amazing. It was a shit show because it was just like,
Are you like the instigator? You're like, I'm just going to
I
comment
love
and like,
it. And just see what happens.
let this thing blow
yeah,
up.
Yeah, I get bored. it's fun for me. I'm like very argumentative. So, I mean, I should have been a lawyer probably. So, so all these comments underneath were like, oh, I'm a doctor. Like, I don't want to, like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the point of the post wasn't that. It was that everyone, whether you're a career-oriented woman, which I believe, for the record, every woman should be self-sufficient, but the right man won't, like, you won't have to be.
Yeah.
He will be there to have your back.
Yeah.
So it was more like about if your priorities do change when you're a mother and you choose to stay home, you should be able to, and your
Exactly.
partner should allow you that freedom to do that for the time or whatever, or forever, depends. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about the whole trend of like the trad wife on Instagram and they're making butter and bread and all these things? Or I guess TikTok too.
Really good question. I didn't know about the trend until someone like pointed it out to me.
Yeah.
And they pointed it out to me because they thought that I was like part of it. And I'm like,
Right.
listen, I can't, if what being a trad wife means just being like at home,
A homemaker?
housewife,
Yeah.
homemaker, I'm not that.
No.
I really am not that. I've worked throughout Alex and I have been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've worked that whole time.
Right.
When he was in law school, I was the only one working and bringing in income.
Right.
But I am really into traditional
Gender roles.
values and gender roles in my household. But I can't come out and say I'm a trad wife or, you know, because I'm not. I do my own thing. I make my money. And I also saw that argument of like, you know, all of these influencers posting on trad wife trend.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're making money off of social media.
Right.
Like they're
boss girls.
They're boss girls. So like this is
Yeah.
missing the whole point, right?
Yeah.
And I also have my view is like very simple. Listen, if you're like we have some friends who are they're kind of like the opposite. So the woman is very career oriented in the relationship and the guy is like actually like more into the family homemaking side of things. And it works for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great. But that's not, I genuinely believe it's not common. I feel like most women prefer to fall into the more feminine role at home. But that's fine. It works for them. My view is that we should be, freedom of opportunity, number one, I agree with. We should be free to do, we live in a free country, more or less, at least. Freedom of opportunity is very important.
Yeah.
But I get, what is that expression, ticked off? Ticked off when somebody tries to put down or make motherhood or homemaking into less of a job than, running a company or being a doctor, because it just isn't. And I feel like we've reached a level in, the Western world where that has been the case. There's been so many women whom I've met and I've asked them, what do you do? And they were embarrassed to tell me they're stay-at-home moms. Yeah. Like there was a woman I met once, she was a mother of 4. Wow. And she's like, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, you're not just a stay-at-home mom. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, do you have like, how many kids do you have? And she's like, I have 4. And I'm like, you're telling me you're just a stay-at-home mom with 4? Like, what are you talking about? Even if you have one child and you're a stay-at-home mom, you're not just a stay-at-home mom. It's a full-time job.
It's a lot of work. It's hard.
It's so hard.
I have friends that are, very accomplished, amazing women. And one of them was saying that the first thing she wanted to do when she had her first child was, she's like, I couldn't wait to get to work, to go back to work. Not because I didn't love my child, but because it was exhausting and harder. She thought being a mother was way harder than being like a CEO. Yeah. So she was like, I couldn't wait to just like not have the maternity leave anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's like, this is not for me.
It happens a lot. I've worked with women like that too. They're like, I wanted to go to work because it was, I loved them. I loved spending time with them, but it is exhausting. I needed help with that. And I felt it was like me time almost going to work, you know?
I can't really say anything about this because I'm not a mother yet, but I was just with like a few mothers, like a few hours ago, I was with like 3 mothers, and they were all talking about how they lost themselves in the like first few months because it's such an adjustment and this and that, and how going back to work is like such a exciting thing for them. But the best of both worlds obviously is being able to work from home. Right. So like things like, social media allows women to do that nowadays. Yeah. I think that like more women are on social media, like making a living than men. And I think they're doing better. They're kicking ass. Yeah. So I love social media for allowing women that kind of freedom. It's like I believe that whatever you're passionate about and whatever you're good at, you can make a living on social media if you just post about it enough. If you just like are persistent and consistent. And I feel like any hobby will have viewers, And I just feel like a lot of people I'm always very like encouraging when people want to like pursue career in social media, because you can do anything. You don't want to put yourself out there. You can just film stuff with just your hands. You want like there's so many ways to do things. And I'm quoting my other half. He'll be very proud because he tells this to me all the time because I don't make enough content for like my own personal like page. And he's always like he's always encouraging me to like post like more about my passions, like cooking or whatever, things I'm into. But it's a lot of work. Right. It's like super time consuming. Like people think it's so easy, but the, editing and this and that, all of that is a lot of work. So I'm always very encouraging when I see women that they're mothers, they have like businesses and they're on social media, they're doing all these things. And I'm like, damn. Yeah. Like even like making butter, like, from scratch, that's crazy. Like I would love to try. I'm all about it. Like I would love to just like live on a farm and try that, but I don't think I'd last very long. Right. It's just like you have to do what you're like.
But
into.
It's interesting. Yeah.
But as like going back to the gender roles, I think a woman should have the freedom to do whatever she wants to do and be whoever she wants to be. I truly believe that. And I don't think feminism is about equality. I think we're equal, but not the same. Yeah. And I think we have different needs. We have different, like even health, like things, like we're more hormonal. We get tired in different ways. Like, totally. Right now it's super trendy to like even like tailor your schedule to your cycle, all these things. Right. And I think it's very important because we do feel differently in different times of our cycle. I just feel like women in North America, especially, are not really given that freedom to, or like not even encouraged to like, just like be a woman. And relish in their feminine because like they just feel like they always have to like girl boss nonstop. But
I want to zone in on that a little bit because this is such an interesting subject. What are your thoughts on that? Like the modern day Western feminism and how masculine it's made.
Yeah, it's another thing I get into fights about.
Yeah.
So I'm very traditional as a person. I believe a man should pay for dates, open car doors, bring you flowers, all of that.
Yeah.
I believe in traditional courtship and in a marriage as well. Just because someone's married doesn't mean all of a sudden that changes. They should stay consistent. And I would personally not be attracted to someone who's like, hey, can you Uber and meet me there? I would never do that.
Yeah.
When I was single and I was going on dates, a guy would be like, hey, do you want to meet me there? I'd be like, no, you can pick me up. Like, it would just be like a non-negotiable for me. Now, like, people have like different thoughts about it because of safety reasons and this and that. And like, so many guys are creepers. So I get it. Like, it's always good to have your way out, especially on a first date.
Right.
But like, generally, even like in a relationship, I just feel like a man should dote on a woman. And I believe that they should take care of us and they should, but it's not a one-sided thing because we provide a different type of love, a different type of care, I think. So I think there's like exchange of the feminine and the masculine that needs to happen that I feel like a lot of people right now don't really like celebrate.
Yeah. People are very confused.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like I don't blame men
No.
per se for not doing those
It's not
things
men's
because we've been, well, not we, but women have been yelling around for decades
Right.
that they don't need no man.
Right.
And
if
I
they're
mean,
not needed, they're not going to want to do stuff for you. I believe that we get the treatment we ask for.
Yeah.
And if you have the balls to ask, you're going to get it. And I was like, I said that to a follower once. I was like, listen, there's someone for everyone, and you're going to get exactly what you're asking for. And I think it's important to make your expectations known in the very beginning. My biggest fear when I was dating, like a dating fear, was always that like I would be one way in the first few dates, and then the guys would be like, "Oh, you changed. Like, what happened to this cool, easygoing chick? And now you have all these like expectations." So from first date, I would always just be like, "I like blah blah blah. This is what I expect. If you're not down for this kind of relationship, if you think I'm asking too much, don't waste my time because first date is the most honest you can ever be with a man."
so you would give them sort of like the list of things that
I like in a relationship. how I
when would
expect
you
to be
introduce
treated.
that conversation?
First date?
Like
First
you
date.
sit down, you're like, listen.
No.
Yeah,
You have a little chemistry. You have some drinks,
Right.
some dinner. By the way, I don't do non-dinner dates. Like, you feed me.
No, ew, yeah. You
If I'm
feed
coming
me.
out, if I'm getting
we're
ready,
going to
I'm
the
getting
most
fed.
expensive restaurant in the city.
Not
Just
even,
kidding.
but it has to be effort, right?
It has to be effort, I agree.
It has to be
The
like,
cameramen are like,
no, like if you're asking me for coffee, I'm not even getting out of bed for that.
No,
Like, that's not happening.
ew.
You know how much effort this is?
exactly.
It's like people don't realize this.
No.
Now that I live with a man, he's like, oh wow, like I understand. Like, he always understood, but like that's why he's around. But like, people don't realize how hard it is to be a woman, how much work it is to.
Yeah.
Because you don't want like a good looking woman.
Shave, like
Yeah.
splash,
And
like
they look
all
at me-
this stuff, and like get dressed,
It's not
cologne,
fair.
and that's it.
It's not
Am
fair.
I wrong, gentlemen?
I have to spend
behind
5
the
hours
camera?
getting ready. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
And then like you don't want to be with someone unattractive. You want her to be hot. So like,
Yeah.
it takes effort.
Yeah.
So anyways, like my manicure is worth like more than dinner. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's expensive to be a woman.
Yeah.
So it's not even about the money. It's about the effort for me.
Yeah.
So it could be like anything that doesn't cost that much money, but he needs to put in effort. They can't just be like, oh, hey. Anyways, like, I hear so many horror stories. Like my friend was like, oh, I went on a coffee date and this dude literally was sitting down, not waiting for me, having a coffee, being like, oh, you can go order over there. I would spill that coffee on his head. Anyways, that's different. But first date, you're having a banter, you're like talking, you're flirting. If everything's good, I don't bother if I'm not interested in the guy.
Right.
Because then I'm like, why would I tell him that? It's false hope.
Yeah.
So I would just sit there and like we would talk, and he'd be like, so what do you? Usually they ask like, what are you looking for, or like, what's your usual type? They'll start asking those questions if they're like super interested, and then you let them know.
It's like, okay, let me present my list here.
Yes. Well, you say
What are those papers called? The ones that you roll out, like the legal whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
There you go. Okay, step number 1, you pay today. Were you planning on paying? No, you pay.
I don't have a wallet today. No, like you would always try to like kind of have code words that are very obvious. You'd be like, I'm very traditional,
Right.
Or like I'm old fashioned.
I haven't dated in 10 years, right? Like I've dated my husband
exactly. Me,
only,
like,
so
I
I'm
haven't
like
dated in
actually
6.
so curious. Yeah.
But that's how I used
Yeah.
to go on a lot of dates because
Right.
like when I was like in the height of my being single, it was like Tinder and Bumble days. Like I never made it to Hinge, thank God. But like it was very. No, not because there's something wrong with Hinge. I think it's a cool app. I love it. I
Right.
just like never had to be single at that time.
Right.
So for me, like Tinder was like early days of Tinder were wild, right? So I mean, I've even done like plenty of fish before Tinder was a thing. So like I have a lot of experience with like first dates.
Right.
Or like, it was like kind of a game for me at the time. I'd like after a while, I'd be like, how quickly can I get a guy to fall for me? Like it would just be like fun. So I would just tell him, I'd be like, hey, I'm very traditional. I believe that a man should be a gentleman.
Right.
It would be things like that.
Yeah.
And then they would understand and they'd be like, oh, of course. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Like, like
They'd be
immediately
like, shit,
they
I forgot to
straighten
open
up.
the door for her.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, and then they would tell me, they'd be like, oh my God, you've been counting all the things I've done wrong, right? Oh, here, like you
And you'd be like, yes, I have.
yeah, like if a man's like, oh, I sit in the booth side, you sit on the chair, like no. Or like if he lets me walk on the street side of the sidewalk,
Yeah.
like all those small things. By the way, I never even noticed or cared about until other men who are gentlemen taught me that that's a thing, because they never think twice about these things, right? But then I would have like a guy who would always be like, no, you go on this side, and I'm like, oh, why? What? That's a thing.
This feels nice.
Yeah, I'm like, you care.
Yeah.
This is so cute.
Yeah.
Love it. So like, I feel like, they're strong, they're masculine,
Yeah.
they should like show me.
Yeah, for sure.
And then for me, I think it's like very different. Like I think women should be soft and encouraging, and like, you should be able to talk to me about anything, and I should be able to make you a meal and have create a beautiful home for us, and just like, all those things that are feminine, I think are beautiful and fun. And like, I mean, one thing I will not do is clean, because I'm really not great at it. And I feel like that should be outsourced.
I'm really bad at that too, actually. That's the
Cleaning.
first thing when like I started to make serious money,
Yeah.
and like Alex and I were living together and we both
Yeah.
like were working. That's the first thing that I outsourced, and I never went back.
No.
It is the best
I
when
can't.
somebody who really knows what they're doing, like it's a
Yeah.
professional who
It's
comes in
beautiful.
and it's the best. Anyways, yeah.
Like that's actually like the only thing that like, he's like, my boyfriend is a huge like neat freak. He's like hello city. He's so clean. Like when I went to his apartment for the first time, I was like, I'm either gonna marry this guy or get murdered, because it's that clean. I smelled bleach. I was like, this is wild. I've never seen a guy's apartment that clean. But like, he gets it from his mom. She's incredible. Like this woman's house is like spotless, and she does it all on her own. So in his mind, like a woman should be able to do this because his mom does
Right.
it, And I always tell him, like, you ruined him for me. I'm not doing this. I'm like, I will cook you like 3
and
meals a day.
she's like not
incredible.
pushy about
No,
you
no,
needing.
she
Yeah.
doesn't- She's like very Canadian. She's
Right.
so sweet. She's like, oh no, like Gina's whatever Gina wants.
Yeah.
She's great. Like, she's like very fair. So he's not a mama's boy, so it's different.
Okay.
Like they have a very healthy, great relationship, and she did such a good job raising like 2 amazing sons who know how to treat women. And I think that's obviously a testament to her, because she's incredible. I mean, his dad is great too, but it's, it's always a mother's job, I think.
Yeah.
So, so like from day one, I was like, I'm not cleaning. And so to now that we've been together for so long and we live together, he's like, please don't cook today. I want the house to stay clean.
Oh
so I'm
my-
not allowed to cook the day after the cleaners come. It's usually Fridays. I'm not allowed to cook all weekend. He's like, no, I love your food, but like, I don't want the mess.
We're going out
after.
for dinner, yeah.
No. Like we're just gonna, we'll have date night.
Are you a messy cook? When you cook, does it get messy?
I don't. I clean after myself, because they make you in culinary school learn how to cook on a very small space and like clean after yourself immediately. I'm not a messy cook, but it's never quite the same after. So like, I'm just like I just don't know how to clean as well as they do.
Right. Yeah, of course. It's never the same.
Yeah.
I'm
So
the
I
same
just
way.
feel like, if someone's strength, or you should
Yeah.
do what you're good at.
Focus on your strengths and manage your weaknesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're so good at verbalizing my thoughts. Should be a publicist.
Ooh.
You're good with messaging.
You think so?
Yeah.
I should consider that, actually. But like, yeah, maybe. Publicists can be a little too,
I mean,
like
like if you wanted another career.
yeah. Let's make everything out of nothing, Like that's
Exactly.
kind of like the side that you have to have. How did you guys meet?
Oh, he slid in my DMs. So very funny. He saw me on a dating app, and I wasn't really on a dating app to meet anyone. I was kind of just trying to get like followers. So I'd have nothing but my Instagram on it. And it was like back in those days, it was really funny. Like all the girls would like go on Tinder and not actually want to date, and they just have their Instagrams because they want like all the guys to
Oh,
follow them.
wow. That was
Yeah,
like
it
a
thing.
trick to get more
Yeah, it was
followers.
like 10 years ago. It was a thing. And
I've never been on a dating app ever. Because I met my husband
right.
when Tinder was like just
10 years
starting
ago. Yeah, 11
to
years ago.
become. Yeah.
Yeah.
So neither of us actually have been on a dating app.
Exactly. So I was like, he swooped me. Oh, off like in the very beginning of the dating thing, but I had like good like 3-4 years of dating apps. And back then they used to even have like apps where like they would like kind of like a Tinder app where it would be like you can change your location and you can go like travel to different cities on your Tinder and like get followers from like different locations. It was wild. So anyways, so I was just like on a dating app. It was like a different one. And he saw me on it. And he was like, oh, this girl's not here to meet anyone. She just has her Instagram. He's like, oh, she's one of those. Okay. So he like goes on my Instagram and straight up DMs me. And he said something funny that I was like, oh, like this is interesting because guys DM you all the time. Like, you know, you don't really care. But I thought he was like super funny and charming. So I didn't even look at his profile. I just like answered and we just like had this insane banter from like the first word. Like we spent like a week talking. And at the end of it, he like put me in his phone as like Mrs. Clary, and he was like, "You're my wife. Like we're getting married. This is happening." Like he's like, "I've never met a girl this funny," and like he loves an opinionated woman clearly. So he was like, "You're so strong. You're so funny. You're like you don't take yourself seriously. Like usually like it's so amazing to like you know meet someone that can keep up with my sense of humor." And I was like, "Wow, you're Canadian and you're this funny."
Ouch.
No. He was like he had a personality.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
He's like very like
Well, and he like he was very
right.
like.
I love that.
I came, I saw, and
exactly.
you know, yeah.
He's very much like that,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
is obviously what I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
And he's like very masculine. He's very much like I take care of this babe, like I got you. And he like lets me be me, and he celebrates all of me, right? So our first date, he took me to this nice restaurant like that I picked. He's like, oh, I'm new to Toronto. I don't know what restaurants you like, blah blah blah. And I'm like, this one. I was like, this is close. And then he like picked me up and the whole thing. He was such a gentleman. He wore a suit. I was like, oh my God, this is wonderful. And then on a first date, I felt so comfortable that I got drunk. And I basically started telling him my list, my whole life story.
Before he
all
even
these
asked, you were
things.
like, okay.
Yeah,
Right away.
basically, it was funny. Like he like tells everyone about our first date, and he's like, I was like, this girl is crazy, but I'm gonna marry her. So after we left the first date being like, okay, we're getting married, and like we just haven't been apart since. And we like moved in 3 months later, and then we moved to a different country now together, like 2 years later with COVID together. It was like great. It was wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you just followed like what you felt was right.
Yes.
And stuck to your standards.
I
like
took it
seems
day
to me
by
like
day.
You took it day by day.
Yeah.
It seems to me like that whole idea of a list, right?
Right.
It's just making sure that, okay, these are the standards and the boundaries that are really important to me.
Yeah.
Can you meet them? Yeah. Yes, great. No, then
Because
no.
I feel like the universe, God, whoever, will find a way to send you what you're asking for if you're very specific. And
Yeah.
if you have things that they're non-negotiable. For me, I didn't care about like how much money he makes. I didn't care about like, you know, where he lived, all these things. But there's certain things I cared about. I
Yeah.
want him to be tall because I'm not tall. And I want tall kids. And I want him to be like very masculine and like gentle, like a gentle giant. And you know what's funny? So I met him in September, end of September. And in the first week of September, I made a list. I did like a new moon ritual. I was like, I wrote a list of like my perfect mate, everything I wanted in a man. Because like I saw it like on Twitter, people were doing that. And I was like, oh, why not? I'm super single. Let's try this. And I was talking to a lot of guys, American guys, because I wanted to move to the US then. And I was like, I'm not staying in Canada. I'm getting an American husband. Like, you know, got along with American guys better. They were like, you know, just like more my vibe. So I was talking to a bunch of people in New York and like on the apps and everything. And I made this list and I never thought twice about it. I just kind of left it. And then when I met him 3 weeks later to the date, I looked at the list like months later and I was like, oh my God, there's everything on the list. Even his flaws are the things I forgot to write down. So we always laugh about the list because he's like, oh, you should have written this. It worked. I manifested my dream man.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you think that he brings out the feminine in you? Because obviously
Yeah.
you have also a lot of stuff that you do outside that's, I guess, traditionally associated with
Yeah.
like more masculine.
Well, I'm very aggressive, you can tell. So I'm not like as soft and feminine as I like to.
But you
want
know
to be.
what? Like I'm sitting here actually thinking maybe the Eastern European, Russian, Slavic,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that too. But it's not perceived masculine, people
No.
tell me. So I don't know what it is. If it's like,
It's like assertive, knowing what you want. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
But do you balance those well?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think
he
you do,
thinks
but
so.
it's do you
Yeah.
feel yourself like you're balanced those well?
I really do think that.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with the balance in my personality. And he even like says like his main attractive point from his attraction to me was because I'm so opinionated, and he found that so many girls just were so afraid of having opinions, and like, you know, picking like a lane or a side or whatever. They would just be like, oh, that's so nice, blah blah blah. Like they would just like, you know, try to be all like whatever, like.
So they almost take the whole femininity
Yeah.
and interpret it as being way too soft.
So it's either they're way too soft or they're too like,
Right.
oh, I don't need you, I'm a girl boss, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't need
yeah.
a man, I can pay your rent, like blah blah blah, you know. So like I just find that, like, you know, very strong traditional, like, I don't know, good guys, they want to be needed, they want
Yeah.
to be your man, they want to take care of you. So like don't like negate his existence, don't be
Right.
like, I don't need you. So I just feel like we have a good balance of the things that he brings and things that I bring. And it's always really funny because the other day I commented on like a friend's reel about like who should pay on the first date. And it was a huge scandal because like by scandal, I mean like scandal in the comments. And they like, all these people started coming after me with their fake profiles being like, oh, it's because you're a gold digger. You're a 50-year-old single gold digger. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Before you insult me, at least check my profile. It was so funny.
I love being called a gold digger when I
love
say men
it.
and women shouldn't be splitting bills at
I
restaurants.
know, I love
but-
it. I'm like, okay, because you think a woman with her own gold wants to pay for a guy? I've never met a girl who like
Yeah.
self-sufficient and is successful and wants a bum.
True.
Like, come on, like everyone wants their equal, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when guys that complain about gold diggers are the ones that actually have the least amount of gold. It's always
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
funny.
They're the ones who really shouldn't be
Right.
concerned about.
Exactly. I'm like, listen, I can take myself to dinner. That's not the point here.
Yeah.
It's a principle.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
should want to take me to dinner.
Yeah.
If you think that's an issue, then why would I ever want a future with you? Because
Yeah.
then we're going to be those married couples that have separate accounts. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And split rent every month. Like, no. That's like my nightmare.
At the cashier being like, okay,
Oh my
this
God.
can be split
This
in
one's
half.
on you. You're doing groceries. I wired you my half of the mortgage. Like, I've seen this shit happen in real life, and I'm honestly like deeply disturbed by this kind of stuff. It's like no, that's a no for me.
No, absolutely
No.
not. People need to be having field trips to Eastern Europe, I feel
I
like.
think so. Every time I speak to other women, they're always like, "You need a course. You need to like teach women like how to, you know, ask for what they want, or like, you know, how to want these things." Because women are these days, it's so sad. They're even afraid to ask for these things.
Yep.
They're afraid to want these things, right?
So I will say is it Scott? I do agree with Scott.
Yeah.
You should post more of this on your personal page and you should educate people more because I think there's a lot of value. And especially in the
Yeah.
presentation,
Yeah.
how you present
Yeah.
it, right? So the culinary aspect of it
Yeah.
maybe, so that we
Yeah.
get inspired with some recipes.
Right, exactly.
And then also this life stuff. I definitely would love to see it.
I just believe in women so like strongly, and I'm such a champion of women, and I love being a woman, and I'm not a man hater. So
Yes.
I feel like there's so many beautiful things about being a man and being a woman that I feel like people forget, and they're like, "Oh, I love being a woman, like screw man," and I'm like, "No."
Why do you have to take it to
What
such
did they do
extremes?
to you?
Yeah.
Like I've never had bad experiences with men. I think men are wonderful. I think there's so many kind, amazing guys.
Yes.
You know, like it's so sad to me when girls are like, "Oh, all guys are horrible. There's no good guys around." I'm like, if you keep saying that,
We
that's what
told
you're
you
gonna
that
keep getting.
exactly. If
Like
you
I've never
believe
had
in
bad
that.
experiences.
Yeah.
Like even like boyfriends I've had that things didn't work out. Like they weren't really like they're not bad people.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say like bad to say about anyone I've
Yeah.
ever dated. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's on you. It's your choices.
Yeah.
So I feel like you should
100%.
choose better.
100%. Take some personal responsibility.
Exactly. I believe women deserve to have it all, and I believe we need to like ask for it and go for it.
Yes. You hear that, ladies? And gentlemen, I don't know if any gentlemen made it to this stage of this episode,
like, "We hate this."
but Gina, thank you so much for your
Thank
time. This
you.
was wonderful. I really appreciate it. And thank you to our wonderful listeners tuning into this episode. I will see you next week.